Okay, we usually assign Regina Hall with comedy.
Yeah,
like scary movies. Right? Yeah, scary movies. She's Gail Bishop, right? Not Gail, the other Gail from Scream, but she's Gail Bishop. And yeah. So Regina Hall usually does comedy. Here she does something a little more solemn, a little more serious, and a horror. We're going to try to figure out what it all is about.
Yeah. So she's going to do the teaching. She's going to be the master, and we'll just hopefully learn something new from the experience.
Yep. We're going to talk about Master.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. I'm one of your hosts, Kyle Goethe from GoatFilmReviews.com.
Hi, I'm Nick from the St. Paul Filmcast. Thanks for watching. Thanks for finding us. And for our loyal fans, thank you for continuing to support the show. You can follow the show on Twitter and on Instagram. We do have a Patreon. Check that out for some great deals to tell us what movies we should review in the future. Both Kyle and I are members of the Minnesota Film Critics Alliance. Check out that webpage for critics' reviews as well as ours. And today we're talking about a relatively new one, Master.
Yeah. So the new semester has begun at Ancaster College, an old and elite university with a predominantly white class and faculty. When a black freshman experiences racist microaggressions that eventually evolve into more physically dangerous attacks, she begins to wonder about the school's past, including the curse of a student who died in her room decades prior.
Okay, this is relatively new first film from Mariama
Diallo, yeah, I think her first feature.
Let me try that. Mariama Diallo. This is her first full feature. This is also she wrote the screenplay for this movie. And the star is Regina Hall. We recognize Regina Hall from a lot of comedies.
Including recently, she did Honk for Jesus, Save Your Soul, which was a comedy documentary kind of mock thing.
Right.
So,
and also stars relatively new as Zoe Renee. She plays Jasmine in this, the college student in this movie. And then we have another one that's you recognize more for theater. She gets a lot of accolades for theater, and that's Amber Gray.
Yeah.
So you have kind of a nexus of accomplished actors that kind of fall beneath a lot of people's radars. That are kind of established in their own little niche. But overall, big celebrity names are not in this movie.
Yeah, the ones that are famous for something different. You know, famous for being on stage for Amber Gray, famous for being comedy. Again, like Regina Hall's done some serious stuff before. Like she was just recently in The Hate You Give, which is a great serious drama. I think she was in one of the music biopics too, and I can't remember which one. I just remember seeing her singing. And
if you know, put in the comments, right?
Yeah, so she's done a number of more serious roles, but you're right. It's just like, I think it's because of 4 scary movie appearances, and then, she continues to pop up every once in a while with things that are more comedic in nature that we don't expect that. And then, of course, Zoe Renee is someone who felt so authentic in role that I could have swore I'd seen her in something before, and I haven't.
Right, and she's a really fresh face into this. It's like, who are you?
Which
right,
kind of fits the character, fresh face in school. So
yeah. Also, it's like I was almost like I want to stop the film and like, okay, I want to look this person up because she gets a lot of screen time for somebody relatively.
Yeah, because she was in the most recent Nancy Drew film that kind of came and went. Had the girl from It in it. Like it was going to be. I think it was poised to be a good franchise starter. She was in that, but it just didn't really go anywhere. And so, not really known for anything else, But
okay. 2 people edited this film. You have Jennifer Lee. She's going to be upcoming editing the new film called Rosaline, which is Romeo and Juliet, but based on Rosaline, that's Romeo, the person he dumped for Juliet.
Yeah, I think that's actually already out on Hulu.
Yeah.
Right now,
So Jennifer Lee, she edited that film. And then you got Maya Mafalia. She's also experienced editing. So it's hard to interpret how the editing process went. Does somebody else edit it and somebody else went back to re-edit, or they did a collaboration? I would assume this is a case of COVID getting involved because the film did have kind of some stalls because of COVID, where they had to kind of space out when filmmakings happen. And we've seen a lot more films that have multiple people in specific roles as behind the scenes. We've seen movies that have had 2 cinematographers, 2 musicians, because someone got the ball rolling and then everyone had to kind of separate out and then get back together. I'm guessing maybe by the time the film was able to be finished shooting, started editing, someone had already started on it but moved on to a new project. This is just an assumption, but we right, because I think the 2 people editing have great credentials. I don't think it was a problem with something of the first cut and then somebody went back to recut it. I
Yeah.
think you're talking about a process of interrupting the process, and you have to hire some people. And
Yeah, well, there's no overlap between those two either, which sometimes you'll see like someone being brought in to train. Like we see that with the
Yeah.
production design. Meredith Lippincott and Tommy Love did production design. And I'm assuming together because they both worked on similar films, but I believe Tommy Love was an art director on the films, whereas Lippincott was doing the production design, and maybe Tommy Love's learning something new, kind
Yeah.
of getting better and role in a different task again. So those are probably two people that work together.
Yeah, especially if they worked previously.
Mm-hmm.
So, movies kind of work that way. So, art direction, you took Gonzalo Cordoba.
Yeah. I think so. Yeah.
Who also did art direction for I Think I'm Ending Things with, I think it was Jessica Buckley?
Yeah.
Jessica Buckley.
Jesse Buckley's
Very
work is
under the
fantastic.
sleeper, under the radar film that didn't get a lot of notice, but a lot of film critics select kind of give a shout out. But overall, not really on time. It's kind of went under everybody's kind of radar.
Well, I think it's kind of like this film where it's like, is this horror? Is it not? Like there's, it's
Yeah.
kind of like on that line. And I think genre fans will always experience horror, and we always like to find horror in everything. But I think it's tough to kind of peg down because I wasn't sure going into this film.
Especially for the art direction.
Yeah, is it gonna be horror or not? And I wasn't sure going into that. And some genre fans, I know some fans of horror that only watch horror. They might not pick up this movie or that one.
So I'm recognizing right now for the art direction because I think that is a possibility for a nomination. I was really impressed with the art direction, the aesthetics, the mood and aesthetics and everything. I really like that.
Yeah.
Especially, I'm not talking about cinematography where they set the shots and lighting, but I really like the overall aesthetics of kind of like constantly like, is this horror?
Yeah.
Very dark, very very subdued. Much like that, talking about the Jesse Buckley movie. And I think of Ending Things, which is a lot of car film. It's a
Well,
whole
I keep
lot of
thinking
car
about
wreck.
this film that it had this idea of like Ancaster College felt like a lived-in real location.
Yeah, it's
I didn't even get the opportunity. I wanted to find out if it was real after seeing the film because I was like,
it's not favorite
wait,
college,
hold on
right?
a second here. Like this seems lived in, and it the whole film kind of had this coldness to the university. Even in like outdoor scenes when the sun is out, the film felt very cold.
Yeah, there's
and
not a bright
diminishing.
sunny day in this.
Yeah, and I think part of that has to do with the art direction of specific buildings, specific layouts, specific ways in which the sets were decorated. It seemed very chilly the whole time through, which kind of evades that mood that we're going for the whole film.
I'm going to cite a movie just by aesthetic, not really comparison plot and point, but it has the overall feel of like Rules for Attraction, which is in a college setting, a lot of busyness, and you don't know if things are going to go fun or horrific because it's college kids throughout the time, and some things are awkward, and that's kind of like this college setting is a perfect environment of am I interpreting things right?
Yeah.
Or misinterpreting things. Should I go up in the attic? It is kind of creepy, stuff like that. As well as you got decorated walls, all white guys, and you're looking at them and like, I bet you're a racist.
Yeah. Well,
this haunting aesthetic.
And the film's entire theme seems to be about interpretation, seems to be about the ways in which we as two white guys are going to interpret situations very differently from people who are another gender, another race, another sexual orientation, and how we are going to see the world in two different ways. And it's very effective in the sense that every single scene, it feels like we're having a misinterpretation or a reinterpretation that is constantly fluid throughout.
Or your feelings are getting valid of the situation. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm being threatened here, even though nobody's really shouting a threatening thing. But overall, the theme of this movie is racism, but it is, we will call it not systemic racism, but just the overall effects. Like it's the aftershocks of it.
Yeah.
It's still there, even though people are trying to amend it, correct it, and help. But the overall people are still dealing with it, even though it might be the same room. And nothing's really going on. It's just that aesthetic, that aftershocks, those feelings is still palpable.
Well, yeah, it's the idea that, well, we've solved racism, right? Because there's no more slavery in America, so we've solved it. And then later on in life, it was, well, we integrated the schools, we integrated the drinking fountains, so we've solved racism, right?
We have
a black president,
we've
we've solved
solved
racism, yeah. And so it's kind of that point where, as white people, we almost don't see it as still like a thing that's still pervading, that's still part of the conversation. And it seems to me that the film seems to hint at inherent bias a lot. And
it's just like that stain that's still there that you have to deal with.
Yeah, and it really makes you, realize like the things in your own life that you say one way that other people say a different way. It goes back to kind of how like Get Out seemed to be that way in some capacity where the reinterpretation of events is seen very differently on the other side.
It's hard to talk about this film without talking about Get Out. Get Out, the main thing is, do I trust you even though you support all my causes, right? You're a liberal white guy, and you get it, but do you really get it? Or do you have some other intentions? This is like, how are you interpreting this racist? We kind of solve all the problems, right?
Yeah.
How can this be a problem still?
Yeah, I keep going back to the maybe the cardinal difference is the extremity of things, whereas in Get Out it's about, well, I'm so not racist that I would have voted for Obama for a third term. Like, trust me, I'm so not racist, I would have given him 3 terms, 4 terms, 10 terms. This film seems to be about, well,
how can I be racist when we put
I can sing the N-word in this song because I'm not singing it like racially. I'm just singing it because it's in the song. And they don't realize like you're putting this young black girl into a position where she's surrounded by white men yelling the N-word at her, and it's so jarring the entire time that scene is going on.
So it's a great time to talk about, since we kind of tap it out around, talk about our review of Master. Okay, so this is overall, I think, a thing of you're balancing subtlety with blatant obvious, right? It's not. Could you call it a horror movie? Could you not? Or is it just overtly racist? Or am I interpreting it wrong?
Yeah,
we're following the journeys of Regina Hall's character, who's going to be the master of students, and then you follow the student Jasmine, who obviously everybody, hey, we like you, Jasmine. You're going to be roommates, but then the casual just disregard that she has to deal with sometimes. Well, how about pizza for everybody? Can you chip in? Well, we're going to play that game, then all that stuff. It's like, I'm just trying to be,
yeah.
Or she gets an F from her teacher. Are you doing that because I don't understand you don't think I understand the book, or I don't think I'm good enough to be a student, or are you trying to make me work harder than the rest of the... So it's all these different variations of obstacles, but are there real obstacles, or are you just interpreting it wrong?
Yeah, they're diametrically opposed ideas here of we're treating you different because of your race, which is wrong. We're treating you the same as if your race hasn't factored into the equation, which is also kind of untrue. Like there's this idea that, well, again, like we've solved racism because we've put one black girl in our school, or we put one black person in as our master.
But it's presented subtly like it's just normal events. Like Jasmine wants to go to the college fraternity house, and then they shut her down. Like, no, you can't come in. We're full.
Yeah, or she goes into her own room, and they're like, "Who are you?" And it's like, "This is my room.
Right.
Stop it."
So the casual, I love the aesthetics of the casual disrespect that you see black student and the black staff have to encounter. That you're like, is that right?
Yeah,
right.
Well, and the central question being too that maybe not all of these events are about race, but it's the compounding of all these events that feels more wrong. Like when she goes through the thing at the library and the thing goes off and she's got to go back and check her bag again, and the woman's like, "Can I check your bag?" Yep. That inherently might not be about her race. She might do that to every single person that comes through. But it's when you have that, and then you have her going into her own bedroom and being judged for it.
Like,
her.
Who are you?
Yeah,
it's like, you're on my bed.
Her trying to get into a party that she's the only person getting stopped. It's that compounding of those problems that just continues to go throughout. It's a very difficult watch because it's, again, goes back to the Shoes movie idea of I've never lived that life, so it makes me really uncomfortable to watch it.
But it's a great setting for a college because you have ancient history just kind of played out almost visually.
Yeah.
The aesthetics of this, and they talk about a ghost and a witch is kind of fun about this, But also those are kind of thematic themes and metaphors of the still lingering things that they have to deal with there.
Yeah.
It's almost like people don't get haunted, places get haunted. And this, the systemic racism that's still there, even though it's been corrected, still have to deal with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that goes back to, I think I want to talk about just a couple of things I didn't care about, because overall, I like the movie quite a bit. Yeah. I feel like this witch curse thing felt like an afterthought.
It felt like a distraction.
It felt like Diallo got to the end of her writing process and said, no studio's going to buy a film that's a drama about race on a college, but if I add horror elements to it, someone will buy it based on that. Because it feels like almost like she directed the whole film and then forgot, like, oh yeah, we have this kind of weird thing. And whether or not that weird thing is real horror or implied horror or, again, reinterpreted horror, doesn't matter because it's not really fully fleshed out.
I think even if she had to interject it to something in her
Yeah.
script, or she had to put that in there to get the script sold.
Yeah.
We don't know the dynamics because obviously this is her first full feature film. She does it for Amazon Studios. Obviously producers we can live the interject. Maybe put that in there. But I know the people that work at Roger Ebert didn't harshly criticize this movie. I think Variety loved this movie, and I think for me, I'm in the kind of the middle. There's great love things I really enjoy.
Yeah.
But for me, when I say things are unforgettable and memorable, this is not a memorable film.
I think that's because it doesn't stick the landing, though.
Yeah.
I really think the movie, I don't think the end of Jasmine's story feels earned. I don't think the end of Gail's story feels earned. And I feel like we've gotten to the end of our story about racism, but we haven't gotten to the ending of our actual physical story. You know what I mean? There's not enough physically happening at the end to justify a finale, but there's a lot of emotional and mental finale.
Yes. Yeah. And I just feel that for me, I have to say, it's very forgettable. I don't know if I'll remember seeing this movie 5 years from now. And it's something like, oh yeah, that's what it's called. That's that movie with college and the ghost and everything.
Yeah, I feel like if I go to my movie shelf and I see it there, I'll be like, oh yeah, Master. It's not something if I didn't keep track of the movies I watched every year and you asked me to talk about movies I loved from the year when I get to the end, I'd be like, I wouldn't even think about the movie. You're right. But if someone was like, what about Master? I'd be like, oh, that movie was good. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's very well made. I loved it. I want to see what she can do next.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a few other elements, too. I really loved the music, and I get this name wrong a lot. Robert Akey Aubrey Lowe, or else Robert A.A. Lowe.
Thank God you tried. Yeah.
Who did the score for last year's Candyman reboot, which was a phenomenal score. I think I voted for that in our MNFCA awards for best score was that score. I think the score here is another really, really strong one that, again, doesn't really feel like it's a score I'll play on my Walkman as I'm going for a run. But when it's in the film and it interjects and it kind of carries that mood, I think this is a very well done mood and tone piece above anything else. It just kind of does a little too much telling instead of showing, and a little too much, mental and emotional instead of physical.
And the script's a little too green. I would like the word exaggeration. A little more obvious with exaggeration.
I really think if you had hinged on the curse, the witch, the thing going on there and actually had that really developed by the end, you could have brought yourself to a shocking comparison piece. I think one of the reasons why Get Out is so impressive is that all the elements that are happening behind the scenes are made by a really horrific script, like a really horrific finale where you get to the end and then you're like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened. If you had something similar when you got to the end,
I thought for sure we're building up to like we have in The Almond with the babysitter. This is all for you, Damien.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, if you do that, boom, you got something.
Yeah.
Right. But I really think I think she was forced to put a horror movie.
It just
in.
feels that way,
Yeah.
And that's not a way you want to have you want to have your genre really pop if you're going to lean into it like this one does.
Yeah. But I think she knows I think she's a fantastic director in the making. Yeah. And I would like to see what she does next.
Yeah, and hopefully I wouldn't mind seeing her reteam with Regina Hall because I think Regina Hall does a lot with limited characterization here because obviously the character
the whole plane of her going in the attic and looking at the old papers of documents.
Yeah,
and
there's
I don't want to tell you what the documents are.
Performance done there. I think Zoe Renee as Jasmine is the standout performance in the film, which is quite something because I don't know her from anything else.
Right.
But everything when she was on screen, she lit up the screen with her emotional resonance.
That had been one hell of an audition.
Yeah,
she had a nail.
She earned that.
Yeah. So overall, it's kind of a mixed feel for this. I see a potential for something really to pop in this. I love the concept of the story. I love the aesthetic of the story. I think the art direction. I'm really going to celebrate the art direction for this. I really liked it, but I want something just to exaggerate. Where the exaggeration is something to keep me so I remember that it's a memorable film.
Yeah, I see it as like an above average little drama thriller kind of thing.
Yeah.
But if it had stuck the ending, I could see this movie in my top 10 of the year. I could see it busting through that if it just stuck the ending. And I just don't think either of the stories really kept me. If even one of the two stories that ended in a way that was satisfactory, I think I would have been all on board for this movie. But neither one did, and it does kind of hinge on you leaving the theater, if you will.
So, overall, what do you think of The Master? Please put a comment down below.
Yeah, you can check out the film right now on Amazon Prime, and let us know your thoughts on it when you see it. We'd love to have the conversation. Remember, it's Master, not The Master, not Master of Ceremonies, not Master of Puppets. But let us know your thoughts on the film down below, and don't forget to like and subscribe. They're two free things.
Please do.
They help to support the channel immensely. You never miss new episodes of the show as they drop, which we really do appreciate. And as Nick mentioned before at the beginning of the episode, that Patreon link is right down there. Go click it. Check it out. We'd love to have you over there. Thank you guys for joining us. You can find all my film reviews over at goatfilmreviews.com.
You can find my show at the St. Paul Filmcast, where I interview independent filmmakers from the Twin Cities area, anywhere you find podcasts.
All right.
I'm not going to go back to college.
You're not going to catch me there.